Hello, everyone. And now I think we can move on to the next section of our AGM, which is our guest speaker. And I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Jenny Webster, who is very special to us. Jenny, of course, is a member of Retina South Africa herself, and she suffers from Stargardts Dystrophy. And Jenny has a whole host of titles. She's an activist. She's a counselor. She is a innovator, creator, inventor, and she's just an all-round enthusiastic content creator and a contributor to the disability sector. We've known Jenny for many years and worked very closely with Jenny. In fact, she served on the Western Cape board a few years ago. And yes, Jenny has gone on to invent an amazing device called the pad perch, which I'm sure she may touch on in her speech. And she's been the recipient of the SAB award for innovation. And the pad perch is currently in production phase. So Jenny, welcome again, and thank you for being here and speaking to us today. I don't understand that you were away on holiday and you've just returned in time to address us today. So we are very grateful for that, Jenny. And without further ado, let me hand over to you.
Am I currently unmuted? My screen reader says. Am I here?
Yes, thank you.
All right, super. And can you, the joys of having visual impairment, am I on the screen?
Yes.
All right. So I think it's quite funny that we, sitting here as a visually impaired participant, between RP and Stargardts, somehow we'll cover the whole screen. So just to say thank you to Manny for that introduction. I was wondering who you were introducing, because that sounds like some kind of superhero. But yes, it's just me being me. And it's a privilege to be here. Just to say congratulations to all the people who are involved behind the scenes with Retina South Africa. It's made a difference to our family to know that we are ABCA4 Stargardts carriers. And I just think the work is terrific. And I'm so excited about just future collaborations and connecting with each other over various issues. So it's a privilege to be here today. Thank you. So today my talk is, I'm hoping that from my talk today, you will take away something, firstly, that you feel valued as a visually impaired person, as a person with visual impairment. Secondly, I'm hoping that from my talk today, you'll take away a sense of being valued, that you notice within yourself the gift that you are to your community. And thirdly, I hope that somewhere in my talk, you will feel empowered to make a difference in some way, according to the way you've been created and the way you've been wired and made up. So that's the way I intend to talk today. And as I go through this, I'm going to be looking at the aspect of the tension we live in as visually impaired people in this day and age. So my talk is about technology, friend or foe, but it is largely about how we relate to technology. So technology per se is wonderful, but it's about that interaction between the human and the machine, where we find that the assistive technology is either helpful or it's a hindrance to us, or we're just not in a place to keep pace with what's happening in the world. So I'd like to speak to that today. And then on hand, I've got Corin who will read anything that needs reading, and Claudette will be changing the slides for me. So thank you for that support there. Thank you, Claudette.
So I'm simply going to read the words and leave it to you to explain what they're about. Retina South Africa, a cure in sight for blindness, now or not yet.
So for those who can't see on the screen, there's a sort of a balance beam with on the side is the one's like a seesaw. On the one side is now, and the other one is not yet. And I was thinking about the tension that we live in. I love the whole slogan of Retina South Africa, a cure in sight for blindness, because hopefully one day there will not be a Retina South Africa because there will not be blindness to be cured. And that will be the success of this organization. But how do we live in the tension between, there isn't a cure for our eyesight. We're sitting in this place with frustrations, but also acceptance of our conditions, and yet wanting to be included in a society which is not really designed for our inclusion. So how do we live in that tension in a way that is helpful and healthy for us who have visual impairment? Thank you. Thank you, Claudette.
Curable, which you will explain in detail, curing how we can see whilst living with what we can't see.
Yes, so just through following sort of some steps in my life, I landed up being an entrepreneur. I really never imagined that I would have an organization. The stand that I've created, it really allows you to use your cell phone or an iPad as a hands-free electronic magnifier. So I love the fact there's magnification in it. It's often free software, but you couldn't use it hands-free. So I created a bunch of sticks, really, that then got awarded a prize as I was about to give up on the whole project. I spent about 4 years molding, remolding, making different versions of it. And I'm actually just going to lift up a pad perch in front of you for those who can see. There's a packaged version. I made it out of recycled PVC originally. Some of you have these, and the poles fall off during summer, so that's fine. And then I started to recreate it. So I have another version that's coming out soon. And we'll be doing some handmade versions while I'm waiting for the product to be refined at the Technology Innovation Agency, thanks to an award from South African Breweries Foundation. But as part of this award, there's a company called Further Impact who have helped with coaching me to see the value of what it means to be a person with a disability who has found a solution for their own problem. And I've been really encouraged to then pick up not just pad purchase a product, but the other side of what I was just communicating for free has landed up being a little business as well, called See You Are Able. So the word spell curable. There's some days where I think, oh my goodness, I really am not able. What have I done? And I think that's a normal journey of an entrepreneur. It's a little bit of a yay or story because there's so much learning going on. There's so much growth required. And I'm really grateful to the support I have from Breweries Foundation and Further Impact to be able to navigate this entrepreneurship as a visually impaired person with the limitations I do have. So I took curable because I thought there are some things that we can cure now. In this tension between living now with a visual impairment and not yet, what can we do? And I just thought, well, I heard someone say, if you don't like what you see, then change what you like. So I thought that's an interesting way of putting things. So if you don't like hot dogs, or pizza, you can change what you like if you want to. You can just say, I like pizza. And then eventually you might start believing it and start enjoying that. So I thought to apply this to my visual impairment. Wow, okay, I don't like the frustration of feeling excluded. I don't like it that there's certain organizations and places I'd love to go, but it's just you need some bravery. Some days I'm not emotionally strong enough to go there. And and other days it takes extra organization. And as you know, it's transport. Who can take you? Oh, the lift fell through. Oh, my Uber app's not working. I've run out of data. There's all these obstacles that stand in the way. And I thought, okay, let me change this around and say, what can I see? Or what can I experience? So I'm even grateful for some of the education that has come out through the Retina YouTube clips, and also linking in with other organizations where there's been education around how do you use all your other senses to experience life, to go on holiday when other people are seeing these beautiful mountains, but being able to experience the birds and the smell of the grass and the sound of running water, the things that we can do. And I just think gratefulness goes a long way for building ourselves up inwardly. That gratitude really has a kind of energy to do the things that we want to do. So as I was going through this, I thought, let me just take the talk and I'm going to put it into an aspect, how we see, who we are, and then how our ability is changed by technology. So as I've spoken, we can choose what to see, and that's absolutely within the power of each of us. We can choose how to see our world, our circumstances. Then thanks, Claudette. If we can go to the next slide.
We can cure, see how we see our condition, friend or foe.
So I've spoken a little bit to that. We can see that perhaps, so for instance, those of us who have Stargardts, there are things that we can't see detail. We struggle to find the buttons on the Zoom call. But what we can see is we can see color or movement, which others may be missing out on. We'd be able to, a lot of us run fast. And I think a lot of Stargardtians, we just like to move very fast because our blind spots are covered. And that is really a joy, something we can celebrate. Then those with an RP sort of condition will then say they don't have that. They miss out on the ability to be able to move quickly or reach to the side and catch a ball that they didn't even know was coming their way. Like the Stargardtians, and yet being able to see the buttons on a screen and just to say, even Claudette can screen share for me today. And then seeing, you know what, as a team, we can all cover each other's bases, visually impaired, sighted, there's a whole community of us, and how do we see ourselves as involved and included in the community in a way, not just focusing on what we can't do, or can't see, or can't participate in. Thanks, Claudette.
We can cure our thoughts about who we are, and our visual impairment will shape us, peace or anger.
So this is a thing, I don't know about you, if I'm just being a bit too vulnerable, but that balancing between that tension as well, between peace and anger. Who am I, and how does my visual impairment affect my identity? Every one of us knows if you picked up a mobility cane and you walk into a public space, you already know there's a whole lot of people who have an opinion of who you are, and they're either feeling some emotion, and it could be positive or negative. And we've got no control about what other people see of us or what they think of us. But we do have control over how we view ourselves. And first of all, just seeing ourselves as people. And often I have to remind myself, I'm a Jenny-shaped person. This is me. And, you've got a precious name, and that is you. And to keep reminding yourself that you're here on this planet for a purpose, and some of it's built into how you've been made, the passions you have, the abilities, the achievements, not just to need to achieve, but even whether you have an ability to listen to people, or you have compassion for certain people. And not to let the visual impairment get in the way of what's really buried in your heart. I don't know about you. I know some of us visually impaired people can really be quite noisy. I do like to sing and make noises, and I don't always get the words right of the songs, but just letting your song out of your heart. And how do you do that? And all of us are in control of how we do that, how we become not just takers of needing other people's help all the time, but how can I be a maker? How can I be a contributor because of who I am? And then the question I was asking myself is, how does my visual impairment give me a unique insight into how I can contribute in society? So for instance, at the moment, the issue of visual exclusion, digital exclusion, I've learned some of the screen readers and things we'll talk about just now. You learn to use it, but when you get into an inaccessible space, oh, I can find myself getting very angry. It's like, I felt, you feel so independent and everything's going well, and now you just can't find a button, or there's something not labeled. And it's those little things. I'm not sure if I'm the only one here, but it's those small little things that make you feel sometimes just useless. They can really take you from feeling like, I've got this, I'm powerful, I can achieve this, that, and the next thing, and those little things can really undo one. Sometimes it's little things like I go somewhere with a driver to a meeting, and the engineer is now talking to my driver and not to me, because they can't believe that this woman who's, fairly old, gray hair, and visually impaired, working with a white cane, could be someone who designed something. And that kind of, those kind of prejudices really can get a person down if you don't, sometimes I think it's good to have a sense of humor and to laugh at that as well. So we all are in control as, how we see ourselves and how we nurture our own soul, our sort of inside, to find a place of peace, to find a place of satisfaction with, this is my life. I'm okay with this. It's hard, but I'm okay with it. There's even some bonuses. I'm quite glad that I can't see expressions, because with some of the terror of the wars going on and the poverty, sometimes to see those expressions, I feel quite sorry for people who can see that. But yeah, powerful stuff. So to encourage all of you, choose something where you can see, this is something within me that I'd like to settle a little bit more within my, within my heart. Thank you, Claudette.
Ability, technology, 2022.
Right, so here we get to the crux of the talk, is about technology. So I've spoken a little bit about the human side of it first, because we are the human who picks up the mobile device or picks up the computer or learns new skills. And I feel that unless we've come to grips with our visual impairment, as a person, and dealt with some of the emotional issues, it's quite difficult to get into a space of thinking, okay, let me do something new and something difficult. I decided last year during lockdown, I was quite frustrated about this inaccessibility. A whole lot of, during lockdown, a lot of companies then went online, created new apps, created new portals, so everyone could get on board with online shopping and banking and all the things we used to do in person. And I was so irritated by being left out on some of these updates that I decided to do the Introduction to Web Accessibility course through edX. So any of you want to do that, it's for free, and you can pay then to get your certificate. And it is fully accessible. I did it on my mobile device because I didn't own a computer at that stage. And so what I did learn on the course was, and I'm going to leave this to the researchers to find the details, okay? Stargardtians like to get the whole form of it, not always the details. So looking at how disability created innovation, the person who invented the typewriter was an Italian man who was trying to create a way for his blind sister to type or to write a letter. And so seeing that this innovation of the typewriter we know now as the QWERTY keyboard came out of disability, so disability forced innovation. Another story that you'll learn if you do the web accessibility is about the beginnings of email. There's a lot of controversy of who invented email. But right at the beginning of this was a deaf guy who thought, isn't there a way that we can change sound into some form of visual information so that my deaf friend can use a telephone to communicate? And so seeing that out of disability came this amazing innovation, and something new was created that everybody uses today. And one of the things you'll find on the web accessibility guidelines is the motto that what's essential for some is useful for everybody else. So it's essential for some, but useful for all. So as we look at technologies, just seeing some of the technologies in 2022, where we live now, never before in history has there been a time when the devices made for ordinary use are exactly the same as those made for people with impairments. Before, we had such specialized machinery, And now they're starting to overlap. That there are a lot of people now who are not visually impaired, but are using all the things created for visual impairment to make their lives easier. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
The next slide, I'm going to read in part first. It starts friend or foe. And on the friend side, we have skill, patience, willingness to learn.
So with the technology that's available, obviously keeping pace with technology is tough enough as it is. And now you add a visual impairment to that, especially those people who are new to visual impairment. It's a big growth curve. If you've grown up from small, you know, some of us have had our visual impairments for years, we kind of get by. And if you've been into the schooling system for special needs, I think it gives you a head start as well. But just seeing that at every stage, it doesn't matter which stage we join this visual impairment journey, there's upskilling that's required as technology changes. And this is where the importance of dealing with the human side is there, so that we can position ourselves to learn, to upskill. There are ways to do it for free. We've got each other to learn from. Hey, what about this shortcut or that shortcut? I went to the Hein Wagner Academy last week for another update on how to use a MacBook, and just learned a new shortcut key today. And it's a process of learning. So not to see the use of assistive technology as I've got to be a pro at everything. But if we see it as a journey, we're more likely to get onto that journey. So that's if we can see it as a friend. The foe side of it is that, and this is where I've positioned some of my awareness consulting, is saying, as visually impaired people, we need to educate. All of us have a role in educating the sighted designers, the providers of services, basic services, shopping, banking. Some of SARS came to mind as well in this conversation, is that we all have a role of awareness to play for those who do not design for our inclusion. So there's two ways I can see it to do it. And I'm very grateful for all the legal people on board, because there is the side we've got to fight for the rights of people with disabilities, persons with disabilities. And there is a right side to do this. There's also a side where there's a saying which says kindness leads to repentance, where I am a customer and I can go to customer care and I'd say, I would love to participate in this, but I cannot access this part or that part. You know, often we get frustrated and we do nothing about it. And this is where I'd like to just encourage everybody. We're all customers of some very big clients as well, using services. For every one person who goes to customer care, there are 1,000 people who don't. And so as visually impaired people, we have a role here to play as well. And I just think not to do it in a nasty way. We don't want people to say, oh no, here comes another visually impaired person. Oh no, we've got to deal with this now. I think it's important to realize that inclusion, we're dealing with people who have no cooking clue. So pretend the shoes on the other foot, that there are sighted people who are completely blind to our needs. And how do we treat them as visually impaired? Because their vision is impaired, as to how to include us in this process. With the technology available, it's absolutely possible. But how do we approach this? And that's why I would encourage all of us to take the approach of kindness, but then to also stand together with organizations when we're looking at policies and the legal side of the inclusion battle. Thanks, Claudette.
It's got stuck.
Is it stuck?
Sorry, Jenny, there was the other side of that slide.
Oh, the other side was, I think, the faux side.
Yes.
Am I right, Corinne?
Yes, no,
Yes.
you did cover it, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oops.
Another one that I'm going to do in two halves. If you have some useful vision, you may want to use speech outputs. Do you want me to go through them?
Let's see if I can remember them.
Okay.
So these are some of the speech outputs that non-visually impaired people use as well. So I know learning a screen reader on a mobile device, and many people here are very proficient at that, or you're very good at using the screen, the screen readers. But for some people who haven't entered this, it's quite nice to start with something. If you've got some good central vision, to use something like Speak Screen. Speak Screen is iOS. There's other names for it on different Androids. I'm sorry, I'm using the iOS one. I'm more familiar with that. But there are also apps for this where you can do a 2-finger swipe down when speak screen is on, and it'll read everything on your screen. So even though to use screen readers, sometimes it's better to use a speak screen. Use 2-finger swipe down and it'll read everything. A lot of sighted people use that because they're in a hurry or they want to brush their teeth and they've got to listen to a document they never finish listening to. And this is where what's created for us is useful for a whole bunch of other people. Speak screen is also very good for people with dyslexia. And so there's more of us that need to be designed for when it comes to aspects and on apps and assistive technology built into our mobile devices in particular. The other one is speak controller. Now, if you turn a speak controller on, for some of them, it gives you, or speak dialogue, it gives you a little box on the screen. And then with your finger, you can drag that box around because you don't want it to be covering a picture or some button, which is essential to go backwards and forwards. And speak controller also has a navigation bar. If you open it up, you tap on the square, it opens up and it allows you to do a few things. The one thing is that you can touch wherever you touch on the screen. So it's speak under my finger, speak under touch. And then wherever you put your finger, it'll speak under that part of the screen, which is also useful because sometimes the screen readers just read too much and you're like, no, just stop this voice, or you get 3 voices on at the same time. I'm sure some of you identify with that. So that's something you can do. And you can also navigate backwards, forward and backwards in sentences on that. So if you're reading through a document, that's speak controller can be useful for navigation. Then Corin, I've forgotten the next one.
Speak selection.
Yes, speak selection is very good if you highlight, either using a keyboard shortcut, but if you turn on speak selection in your settings, what happens is that when you highlight something, whether you're using your finger or you're using a keyboard, it'll come up in the selection bar, like with cut, copy, paste, all of those. One of the options will be speak. And that's quite useful as well, because you sometimes don't want all your email footers and headers being read out. You just want the body text to be read out. So that's a very useful controller to have in there.
And
the next one.
Voice assistant.
Oh yeah, of course, voice assistant, which is, okay, Google. I don't want to say the other one in case my computer turns on and asks me to help. It's okay, SIRI. And also to say, please read my latest emails, or to say, send an email to, send a message to, and to use our voice assistant. Now, that is fantastic for us with visual impairment, but it's also great for other people who would maybe third language speakers, people who would like something read aloud because they don't want to be struggling. My screen reader wants to update my computer. Sorry about that.
And then,
yes, other side.
Typing inputs. The first one,
yes, so,
handwriting.
Yes, so typing inputs is different, to find different ways to put in. I know on iOS, handwriting is in there. You can put it on the rotor, and you can, for those not used to typing, can use handwriting to type your messages. And you can find your punctuation, uppercase, lowercase, and numbers in there as well. Then you've got your keyboard, Bluetooth keyboards, which is a nice way. I used my phone as a computer for nearly 2 years like that. Other typing inputs, you can use dictation. It's particular, you need to set your the voice for the right language to help recognize. So if you've got an accent, it can be very interesting as to what is being typed. And I think I left out one, Corin.
I think handwriting, typing, dictation, and keyboard.
Yeah, I think we've typing. What can be when you're just new to a screen reader is also to put on something like touch typing, so you don't have to double tap on every letter that you land on. But touch typing allows it reads you the letter, and then you can lift your finger to type it, and that's quite a nice short way to handle that. So I hope there's some useful tips in there for those who are new, who have some vision that they can use still. Then the next slide.
For severe visual impairment, use screen reader on mobile, tablet, computer, or braille screen input.
So I think most of you may be familiar with these, with these devices and how they work. And once again, it's just continually updating our software, learn and just having the courage to slowly learn one new thing each day or each week, whatever target we set for ourselves, to be able to keep pace with the wonderful technology we have at our fingertips. And there's a lot more free screen readers, ability coming out as technology advances. So just encourage everyone to take advantage of what is already there and with the devices you already have. Thank you.
And then the quote from Rachel Hollis: "We may not be in control of what happens to us, but we are in control of how we respond to it."
So I found this quote very empowering. It was really the thing that changed my mind about when I started. I thought, how can I create a solution? I'm so frustrated with my visual impairment and I don't have the money for the assistive technology. And what can I do? And I just felt, let me change the way I see it. I am in control of how I process my visual impairment. And it was then I picked up my phone. I thought, well, what do I have? And it was my cell phone. And from realizing I've got a magnifier in my cell phone for free, that was what led me to creating the pad perch and going through the various iterations and getting to a place now where I'm ready to bring a product to market, as well as learning how to have a sustainable business, how to give awareness to our sighted family and friends and designers and innovators, social innovators, to say, hey, don't leave us behind. We've got a lot to give. There's a lot of creativity wrapped up in the disability community. And I think it's time for that treasure chest to be opened. So that's it from me. I think there's one more slide, and that's about my business Pad Perch trading as CR able. So I have a little bit of content coming out. Some of it is how to make visually impaired slide presentations, which might be useful for some of your sighted colleagues in their businesses. You're welcome to follow me on Facebook. It's Jenny at, what is it? Jenny Webster. Curable with Jenny Webster, C-UR-able with Jenny Webster. I'm only called Jennifer when I'm naughty. And then if you wouldn't mind, you can like, you can follow, you can share if it's helpful. If it's not helpful, just pass by the other things to do. But I'm bringing out some short videos to show some of the tips that I spoke about in the previous slide, the speak controller, etc. And then you're welcome to go to my website and follow the newsletter. If you'd like to get updates, as the Pad Perch becomes available, I'm in the handmade version coming soon, and then it might be a little bit more expensive. And then eventually when the iterated product comes to market, hopefully soon, then you'll have updates on that, where you can purchase one, or maybe family members would love to buy one for you, and also for your sighted friends. It's a device that's very good for solving the problems of text neck and of just not getting cramps in your arms from holding a device. So it's got many uses, but you can follow there and see the video about how it works. And that's it from me. Thank you to this wonderful team.
And can I start with
Thank you, Jenny.
Sorry, Manny, there was just a Q&A posted from Craig Medifant, who says, awesome presentation. Thanks, Jenny. And I think everybody feels exactly the same. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Jenny. It's absolutely amazing to hear you each and every time that I do. And I think there's always interesting things. And, as I mentioned before, you are quite inspirational in what you do. And, I think that always shines through in everything that you do. So it's always great listening to you. And there's always new things that you're figuring it out. And I do feel, like you are on the journey with the rest of us as well, because you're constantly trying new things, pushing yourself. And, I think that's hugely impressive and inspirational to myself personally, and I think to many others as well. And I think that's the sort of and things that we need to promote within the disability sectors, trying to help each other and try and figure things out together. So thank you so much for that, Jenny. I heard a new word there that I've not heard before, Stargardtians, which I quite like. I think as one of the Stargardtians myself.
Well, then watch out. I want to start an alien club, because many of us live in this world, but we don't feel like we're of this world. So I think somewhere with Incurable, we're going to have an alien club. So please join, and then we can post all the fun stuff about being visually impaired.
No, certainly.
And I joined. I've been told more than once I must be from another planet.
There are a few questions. Shall we take them now, Manny?
Yes, please. You can take a couple of questions.
Courtney says, thank you very much. Karen says, excellent, congratulations, inspiring. And I think she's also a Stargardtian. And Nontatuko says, thank you so much for the information and fruitful AGM, and for assisting the department to render services to our communities.
Thank you for those comments. And I think we can, you can contact Jenny directly. We'll circulate her details again to everyone, and we'll put those up on our social media as well. And you can send through your queries or comments. You can also contact our head office, and we will send through any questions you may have to Jenny. I think there's so much that she mentions in a talk that is just so practical. And I know I've been in a situation, Jenny, where I've been in court dictating a document with utilizing Microsoft Word dictation, and other attorneys have come around to say, what is this magical thing that you are doing? And it's I think it's amazing how we can share this technology with sighted people and that sort of thing. So yeah, really insightful presentation, Jenny, and thank you again for being here. We are very grateful for all your inputs into the sector.
Thanks.
May I just say we've got a couple of messages on the WhatsApp, and Jeremy Opperman says,
Great.
Thank you, Retina, for a great AGM. In particular, well done, Jenny Webster, for a super talk.
Yeah.
And Peter Ogilvie said, nice presentation from Jenny. And I sent the link to David and Sandy in the UK for them to listen as well. So you are now an internationally famous speaker, Jenny.
And I've had one query. Could you please mention again, Jenny, in the beginning you spoke about a site that was free that you could go onto to learn about computers?
That's I think what you're referring to is I went onto an educational portal.
Yes.
Called edX.
That was
to learn about web accessibility.
Yes.
So I wanted to upskill on what is web accessibility, how the code is involved in it, because when we complain about it on the one end, you must realize there's a whole group of people who are dealing with authoring tools. They're dealing with the different kinds of devices, making everything appropriate for various kinds of devices. And then your graphics people, and trying to there's a whole myriad of designers and specialists behind it by the time we see that user interface.
Okay.
And so this is where it's just you can find out a little bit more about UI UX on that platform if that's your bent.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
There's no more on my phone, and there are no more here.
Okay, thanks, Karen. And thanks again, Jenny. We will forward any further questions or comments that we get to you. And we greatly appreciate that.
And I think everybody heard Manny talk about the tough times that we're going through at Retina South Africa. And there are different ways that we'd love you to help us, support us, and just be part of us. There's one, for example, that is of zero cost to you. It costs you absolutely nothing. If you get a My School card, which you can get at www.myschool.co.za, Everything's free of charge. You sign up, and then every time you swipe the card in certain garages, in certain stores like Woolies, etc., we get a couple of cents, and hopefully those cents do add up. So that's one way that it would be wonderful if you could just add us to your beneficiary list. And a lot of people are not aware that it's not only for schools, it's for all kinds of people who benefit by the service. And it's not only for schools, and you can have 3 beneficiaries at any one time. And then also, we have also started at Retina South Africa our Friends for Sight. And our motto is, I help to stop vision loss, do you? And if you'd like to sign up, for example, for 5 Rand a month, 10 Rand a month, 20 Rand a month, what you can afford, we're happy to have 5 Rand a month from people. If you just sign a little stop order, we're happy to send that to you. And I know that I certainly don't notice the small stop orders that I donate to various people in small amounts. So that would really help a lot. And if you want more information about any of this, once again, go on www.retinasa.org.za. You can email us at head office, one word, head office, at Retina SA, retinasa.org.za. Or you can even call our share call line, which is 0860 595959. And any tiny donation that you're in a position to make, we would be really grateful to receive.
Thank you so much for that information, Karen. It's always very helpful to put all of that out there as much as possible. And we do hope that you will heed our calls for support and support us in any way that you can.
And Carol has thanked us for what we do for the organization. And Neil has his hand up. I think he would like to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
we have a lot here.
Yeah, I must say, Jenny, I haven't met you before, but very inspirational. But I think with my journey, I think it's been a very painful journey, and I'm not negating that in anybody else's. And I really can't see the positives a lot of the time. A lot of the time, I feel like a second-class citizen. I have to struggle so much more, just to achieve what my colleagues achieve. I'm not given any kind of extra help or acknowledgement. I see the world as a dangerous place. My losses are cumulative, and I know very well, and you're absolutely right. You can only deal with, you can make a difference in how you deal with something. You can't really make a difference with what's been dealt with. But I think that also that my point of view is actually something that reflects a lot of people in the low vision type of world, because you've lost something which is so pivotal and so important in your independence. And it's very difficult to make peace with that. So yeah, that's my story.
Thanks so much.
May I reply to Neil? I just want to reiterate what Jenny's quoted from Hollis, but really you have to learn you can't change anybody else. You can't change the world, you can't change the circumstances around you. You only can change your reaction. And it's a mindset. And until you get into a state of mind where you're going to be changing your reaction, and the way to do it is through compassion and gratitude. And of course, that sounds like I'm a yoga teacher, which I am. So I do feel that we all, and if anybody wants to join our group, we've got a breathing group. But if you change your reaction, I promise you the world around will change you. So yeah, one day at a time.
Thanks, Claude. I just want to make one quick comment that I think a lot of people are aware of. There was a game ranger, I think the year before last, and I don't know if anybody watched his video, Sighted. And the moral of the story is something that Jenny said earlier, that sighted people can learn a lot from people with visual impairment, and we certainly can. And this game ranger had been taking groups into the bush for years. And he was asked to take this blind lady, and he thought, oh dear, what's he going to do? And he went out and he said he learned so much about the bush from her for the first time. With his other senses, he learned touch, he learned to smell, he learned to hear better and to notice things that he'd never done before. And he said his entire experience with her has made him a much better, superior ranger. And when Jenny was talking about how those of us with sight can learn, yes, we can learn a lot from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for that input. I think it's excellent, and these sort of topics which evoke discussion and conversation are always good. They may be painful and slightly traumatic, but I think we have to talk through it and together try and assist and pick each other up as much as we can. So thank you all for those inputs, and thank you, Neil, for that very personal input from your side. It's much appreciated. Okay, so I think at this point we've reached the end of our presentation for today and for this AGM, and I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for attending, for participating, for listening to what we've had to say. And I'd like to thank everyone who's attended and contributed. And I'd like to thank Jenny, our guest speaker, as always, inspirational, motivational, and leaves us with a lot to think about and a lot to be excited about. And yeah, I'd like to thank the team, the Retina team and the management committee for all that you have done, and all of those who contributed in today's AGM. Thank you very much for all that input. It is greatly appreciated. And that brings us to the close of this session. And we hope to engage with you all of our various platforms soon. And we hope that it is a fruitful engagement. Just a final note, we will be making Jenny's presentation available on our platforms. So look out for that if you'd like to get a bit of a recap or share with some of your colleagues or family members. Great. Okay, so thanks. That brings us to an end. Have a good Saturday further, and enjoy the rugby if you're going to be catching some of that shortly. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.